Welcome to another stage analysis video. It's Sunday the 13th of August 2023. We've got a lot to get through as always with the weekend video. Normally runs for about an hour and a half. So first section will be 10 to 20 minutes or so going through some of the stage 2 stocks moving on volume before we get into the more regular member content, looking at the major US indexes, the futures charts, the relative strength, industry group rankings, IBD bell curve, and the market breadth before looking at a few of the most recent watch list stocks in a bit more detail, multiple timeframes at the end of the video to see if any new group themes are developing in the short term. Okay, getting back to start here, we're going to go through, as I said, through some of the stage 2 stocks moving on volume at the moment. CELH, so CELH, Celsius Holdings, had an earnings move this week, gapping up. Let's jump into the daily chart to see that on Wednesday. Big move up on Wednesday, consolidated nicely Thursday and Friday on contracting volume. So we go back to the weekly chart here. You can see the advances over the last few years or so. This is a 3-year, 6-month chart on here. If we go all the way back to the 2020 initial stage 2 advance, so broke out in May in 2020 into early stage 2. You can see I had an exceptionally strong initial stage 2 advance, consolidated around the 10-week moving average a few times before pulling back, starting to get a bit more choppy in the upper part of it into 2021 as it started to develop more into stage 3 type behavior before rolling over eventually into stage 4. So we got a stage 4 breakdown at the end of 2021, but it was short-lived. As you can see, only made a single move lower in stage 4, pulled back to the breakdown level into the stage 4 secondary entry point, but didn't make a lower low. And at that point, we then started to build a base. So you can see from there, this was one of the early movers. It was actually around June, I think it was 2022, at the end of June 2022, this broke out into stage 2. So it's this week here where it started to break out into stage 2. You can see the 30-week moving average started to rise. The 10-week was rising. It was starting to move out. There was only a few stocks at the time. I think there was about 2 or 3 stage 2 breakouts at the time. As we know, the major indexes were actually doing the opposite at the time. You can see the relative strength at the bottom down here was doing the complete opposite to what the market was doing. The market was still making lower lows. We actually had the low in June, one of the major swing lows. So the market was making new lows while this was actually breaking out into stage 2. So showing exceptional relative strength in the near term there. And you can see since that stage 2 breakout there, it's had a really strong run, up over 140% here now, but did actually drop off into stage 3 type behavior before returning back to stage 2 again through the earlier part of 2023. So if we zoom in on this a little bit now to our more standard view, I do 2 years, 9 months on my charts, so you can see the price action more recently. So this was the stage 2 breakout week, as I said, at the end of June 2022. Before we had that initial run, came back into the 30-week and then rolled over a little bit into stage 3 before recapturing and starting to make a new stage 2 continuation. So this recent move has put it back. New stage 2 continuation on some really strong volume here. So one of the strongest volume weeks it's had for a while, since August last year. So looking for this to obviously continue in stage 2 to new highs. Drop back to the daily, you can see in the near term obviously a little bit extended around its plus 3 ATR level here. So be looking for this to consolidate, pull back in a bit, let the moving averages catch up a little. Look at our next one, EVLV, so Evolve Technology Holdings. So this one, you can see it was a SPAC back in 2021. You can see by the tight price action around the $10 level there. So then had an initial stage 4 decline, quite sharp one, before we started to see a change of behavior here. So through this area here, so we had the swings, and then this was a much more significant swing back towards the 30-week moving average. So this is our selling climax area into the automatic rally. So started to move off. So if we take the base structure across this area here, or through this area where the majority of the price action has occurred over the course of the last year, you can see our stage 2 breakout area through this point here. It started to move up on some stronger volume back into stage 2. You can see it was actually one of the strongest volume volume weeks at the time it ever had. And we've now had a stronger volume week than that this week, actually higher volume this week on the continuation breakout. So it's been in a fairly tight continuation pattern for a little while here. It had already run, obviously, considerably from the stage 2 breakout point. So we take it from, it already had at that point a 70+% move, and we've now obviously pushed above the 100% level since the initial stage 2 breakout. If we look at the daily chart, you can see how tight it was got a little bit more volatile, had a little fake out type move. You often get these kind of moves to trap the breakout traders. Came back in again, standard type of breakout and pullback move there. So you can see we had a 16-17% pullback before then returning back to new highs again on earnings. So this one looking interesting here for a continuation, but obviously extended in the near term again. NN, this is one I hadn't seen before. It's still underneath the $5 level, so I don't tend to scan for stocks under the $5 level, but with the internet group being at the top of the RS rankings this week, this came up when looking through the group individually. So you can see that original change of behavior back through here where it started to build a base structure. I see selling climax, automatic rally, secondary test areas. So start of a structure through here. So this broader structure, spring type action down the bottom here. So classic Wyckoff characteristics for this one. Started to move out from phase C into phase D and has now made a new breakout from the broader structure. So potentially the week before might have been the stage 2 breakout, but obviously they're clearing the structure more completely this week on stronger move, 28.21%. So now clearly into potential early stage 2 here with a reasonably strong close on the week, a little bit of a squat into the end of the week here. You can see the Mansfield relative strength starting to outperform versus a flattening zero line, which is the 52-week moving average of the relative stock divided by the S&P 500 and the 52-week moving average of that relative strength there. So if we look at AKAM, this one, AKAM Technologies. So moving out into stage 2 more a little while ago here. Actually had an initial breakout potentially back in the latter part of May there, but rolled over fairly quickly back towards its 10-week moving average back into the broader structure. So we can see this, mark up the broader structure there. Still only just coming out of that now. See the volume picked up this week, stronger than with the stage analysis method. We look for more than 2 times the average weekly volume of the last 4 weeks is the traditional one from the book that you look for, but you don't necessarily get that on all types of stocks, especially large cap stocks, etc. But you do on the smaller cap stocks. It's generally a good point to look for, or at least more than average volume. So we look for strong volume move around the breakout level at least, and obviously any pullbacks we want to see that contracting. You can see relative strength starting to outperform versus a flattening zero line there, but only just starting to move above, and you can see it's been underperforming for a long time. So a bit of a choppy one, big choppy stage 4 decline. So obviously a little bit of a change of behavior here, just moving through the $100 level. So be looking with that being a key level that would often provide support on any kind of pullback move. So if it does start to fall back below that, that would be obviously a point of concern on that one. CPNG, so Kupang, I'm not sure if this is one of the Chinese stocks or not. I've looked at this one before as it was developing through stage 1. So you can see the change of behavior move at the bottom from the selling climax into your automatic rally back into early stage 1 area. So it actually formed a higher base structure through here, tightened up, had a little bit of a terminal shakeout move that undercut that, has come back through again. So starting to potentially break back out into early stage 2 again. Volume up on the week, but not dramatically up compared to what we've seen previously. Again, if we drop into down the time frames, you can see it was a potential gap up earnings move there. So look, it's just attempting to push out into early stage 2. The pullback day is on contracting volume. Also got ARRY, so Array Technologies. This one's really been messing with people for a long time now. It's been going sideways, like moved out into early stage 2 back in 2022 during July. Again, it was one of the early stage 2 breakout moves when the solar stocks were having a good run. So they started breaking out. I think it was after something passed in the US to do with legislation towards the industry. We had a really good run initially for a bunch of them. FSLR was the leader of the group and had a really decent stage 2 advance and has been holding fairly strongly at that. I believe it's actually in the watch list again this week as it's developing in its base structure at the moment. But this one, Array, came back in. It was one of the leaders in the group. You can see it had a fairly steep pullback initially all the way back to the original stage 2 breakout level after a 3-week run there. Then moved into the secondary backup entry zone and pushed its way back up towards the highs again, but it has since then failed to obviously break out above the top of this structure, started to roll over again. We started to see stage 3 type behavior through here. So it's been in stage 3 ever since, and now we're getting back towards the top of the structure again. So potential for it to attempt a stage 2 breakout again, but as I said, on the daily chart here, we can see obviously been in a very broad range for a while now and just pushing back towards the upper end of that again. So it could easily just do exactly what it's done before in the past. At the moment, obviously pushing back towards the top of that. So we'll look to see how it develops in the upper part of this range and if it can hold above these key moving averages.